There's really no amount of strategy that can outwork a bad environment at home. You can be the most awesome, driven, and ambitious person in the world, but if you're tied to someone who is just kind of like bogging you down, that is so hard to beat.
Are you wrapping cars more than 12 hours a day, every day? Working nonstop but can barely get by? Burnout, missing deadlines, and wondering just how much longer you can keep this up?
That was us too. We started our wrap shop buried under $250,000 in debt, and it felt absolutely impossible. But we dug out, built a profitable shop, and are still in the trenches of owning and operating a wrap shop. We're here to share what we learned along the way so that you don't make the same mistakes that we did.
And we're here to help you with the business side of the wraps, like pricing, building a team, streamlining your systems, ultimately so that you can run your shop and your shop stops running you.
Welcome to the Wrap Ops Podcast, brought to you by Wrap Fam Unleashed. In my opinion, this might be the most important episode that I have recorded. So if there was going to be an episode for you to tune into, I definitely recommend this one. And I don't think it's going to be on a topic that you expect it to be. So today, the big theme is that you can make a lot of mistakes when it comes to hiring, when it comes to clients, and even just in general, making bad business decisions. You can pretty much always fall off the horse and get back up. But one thing that is going to compound every single day and is going to be so hard to, I don't want to say get out of, but almost recover from, is choosing the wrong life partner. And that doesn't even mean that this partner is in your business. It could just be the person that you go home to after work each day. But if you selected that person incorrectly, you're really going to have a hard time running your business. I do think that it takes a very special person to be supportive of an entrepreneur and the lifestyle that kind of comes with that. I think a big misconception is, get with this person who owns a business and then my life's going to be awesome and I'm going to be rich and take a lot of vacations and everything. And while that could be true, if maybe they're like very established in their business and pretty far along. But if they're in the building phases, it is not an easy role to play to be the partner of an entrepreneur. I'm in a little bit of a different spot because I'm the partner of an entrepreneur, but also one myself, and we're in the same business. So of course, there's many different formulas here. You could both be entrepreneurs of different businesses. Or maybe one is an entrepreneur, another works a different type of job. It doesn't really matter. The point I just really want to bring home throughout this episode is that this is like a make or break decision for you. So your partner is really going to either expand your life or they're going to completely shrink it. And I hope that you are picking someone who expands it because it is the absolute support that you need. So let's dive right into it. So why does this matter more than people kind of admit or talk about? If you listen to business episodes, I don't feel very often they bring up like, hey, by the way, who are you dating? Who did you marry? Is that person supportive? It's kind of like we're nurturing and we're building this person that we are during our business hours or whatever schedule you may work. But we're not talking about the person that we're going home to and the person that we're sharing things with. And there's really no amount of strategy that can outwork a bad environment at home. And I see this play out with my friends. I see it play out with employees. I see it play out with family. It's everybody. It's like you can be the most awesome, driven, and ambitious person in the world. But if you're tied to someone who is just kind of like bogging you down, that is so hard to beat. So today, I hope that you walk away from this episode with a little bit of a better mindset of that and maybe what to do if you might be in that position, or if you're single, maybe some things to look for in a partner when you're going on those initial dates, or just maybe some tough conversations that you just need to have with who you're with. So really important episode today. And of course, we had to pair it on the week of Valentine's Day because your girl loves Valentine's Day. So I thought, this will be a perfect episode for this week. So anywho, if you needed a reminder, Valentine's Day is this Friday. Hopefully you're listening to this podcast the Tuesday before Valentine's Day. If you already missed it, sorry about that. But anywho, so let's look at how the wrong partner can hold you back. And I would like to point out that I don't think that the wrong partner is intending to hold you back. It just might not be a right fit for what's going on. So, a couple examples of this could be that maybe you're going home and you're talking about these huge goals and these huge dreams that you have with your business and with your profession, whatever it may be. And they just kind of like dismiss it and are like, oh, that's unrealistic. Like you really have your head in the clouds. A little bit of a red flag. Obviously, it depends on what the goal is and your previous track record, but kind of right off the rip, like just that unsupportiveness it's tough to beat. And then that kind of turns into making you feel guilty for being ambitious. Maybe they're just like, hey, can you just work your 9 to 5 and save up money so we can go on a trip? That can be, of course, really, really deflating. And then they kind of start to resent the amount of time that maybe you spend at work on the business, growing or building something. And I would like to point out that I am guilty of this. Early on in me and Andrew's relationship, he actually had to call out, like, we're trying to build this business. I'm trying to set things up. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, but it's really hard when I talk to you and you're just like upset that I'm working on the business. And it took a few honest and deep conversations for me to get the message. So I would like you to know that I'm coming at this conversation as someone who's not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And that's a big thing also, is that these crazy strong relationships that you're going to make with someone, those aren't just like found. It's not a matter of like, oh, this isn't the right person for me, I'm going to break up with them and go find someone who's better and we're going to be perfect. It's really about finding someone who has that similar core value, those core things that you have in common, and then working together to build a strong relationship. It's not going to happen overnight. And I could go on for hours about how many just random things me and Andrew have had to do to strengthen our relationship, and times when it's been super weak and we had to like sit down and be like, okay, this isn't working. Like this wouldn't be sustainable if we keep acting like this. We're not going to work out. And so we would course correct, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So back into the, kind of how a partner holds you back. I would say that they create stress, especially in already high stress moments. So more like creating chaos in high stress moments. Let me give an example of this. So if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you lost some key staff members, maybe sales are really low, maybe you're opposite reason, maybe you're absolutely slammed and you don't have enough team members to support the volume. There's just some sort of big fire that is happening in your life at that moment. And then you come home and your partner is demanding more quality time, or accusing you of cheating, or something that is just like, oh my gosh, like I just had the craziest day, and then I come home and I'm still having the craziest day, versus kind of having that support person to be there during this very hard time. So that's a big thing to look out for, is if you're drained at work and then you go home knowing you're going to be drained again, a serious conversation needs to be had to figure out how to course correct that and make a plan moving forward. And then the other one that I think is huge, that I think is very common, is that they do not believe in you until they see the results. And that's really hard for an entrepreneur, because you need people to believe in you before the results are even there. That being said, I can tell you that I think the key issue here is, what does the word results mean to your partner? I think for most, it's okay, if they're doing well at their dream, their business, their whatever, that must mean we have a lot of money. So therefore, I should see a boat, a beach house, a bunch of trips on the calendar planned out. I should have a new car, a new home. You're expecting these almost kind of financial level ups to prove that what they are doing is working. Again, I am guilty of this. I thought that as well. Like, well, if things were going really well, then we wouldn't be driving this POS car, and, I wouldn't have a budget on my groceries and blah, 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 little things like that. But really, I think when it comes to an entrepreneur, the results that you are looking for is like, are they working decent hours? So Andrew, it was a big fight with us of how much he would work. And I would be working alongside him, but in the very beginning, I wasn't. And that's, we could go off on a side tangent on that forever. In the very beginning, I was like, oh, he's got it. I'll come home at 5 and like make dinner, and then he'll come home and eat dinner, and he wouldn't come home till like 11 or something. I mean, I would be well asleep. And after a few months of that, I pretty much was just like exploding. Like, why are you not coming home? And then that was when I really started, okay, I need to step up and I need to help him, and I'm going to go into the shop with him. And that was kind of how we started this huge working together journey. But anyway, that being said, at this point in our life, both of us can come home and eat dinner together. To me, that is better than a beach house. So that is like a huge win that I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We have results. Another one would be like every now and then we get to take a 3-day weekend. That was unheard of back in the day. We used to not even take weekends. So a 3-day weekend is huge. Holidays off. I have vivid memories when we first started the business of Andrew being at my parents' kitchen table, like catching up on like taxes and things because he could just be on a laptop since we were at their house. And that just annoyed me so much. But looking back, I see why. It was because it was a random day that he didn't have to physically wrap cars. So he was catching up on that. So now, Christmas Day and even the days surrounding it, he is not doing that. So again, those are results. And then just like in general, you will see a better mood from that person when their business life isn't so chaotic. And that is another result that you're looking for. So if you're going to be with an entrepreneur, or if you are an entrepreneur and looking at your partner, maybe that is just something that needs to be discussed of, we're taking on this risk, we're going to do this venture, but I don't want you to think that means in a year we're going to be rich. Like there kind of needs to be expectations. And then what's best case scenario? You blow it out of the water and do amazing. No one's going to be upset that you got there faster. So I don't think that this person is intending to hold you back, but that doesn't erase the impact of how they make you feel. And really, it's all about, I have a whole episode on protecting your energy reserve. And the person that you're going home to can seriously deplete your energy, or they can enhance it. So it's kind of up to you to pick the person that you think will enhance that, or work with your current person to figure out how you can get that result from them. And I would also like to say support doesn't mean that they are agreeing with every single decision. It's just believing in the person who is making those decisions. This is another thing that me and Andrew have had to work through so often. So to give you just a few like real life examples from our life, that I think we just did an episode on this, on what we called the shiny object syndrome. If there was like a poster child for shiny object syndrome, it would be Andrew, and then like me in the background supporting it. So in the very beginning, I have always believed in Andrew and what he's doing. And if you know our backstory at all, we got together in high school. So we have a very long history together, and he's just always been a true awesome person to his core. I genuinely mean that. And I know anything that he will do, he will be successful at. However, his kryptonite, and I think this would be everybody's kryptonite, is trying to do too many things at one time to where you cannot focus on one and make one successful. So I remember there was this time we had this huge fight because he went to a conference. I can't even remember what the conference was about, but he was all excited about going to the conference, and I was excited for him, and he went to it. And there was some speaker that came up on stage and presented the idea of like helping an entrepreneur write their first book, and that you could pay X amount of dollars, and this person, him and his business will coach you through how to get your first book published. And Andrew came home all excited because he spent the money. Keep in mind, we didn't have a dollar to our name. He spent the money to sign up for this program. And I remember I basically said, like, one, I don't love that the money was spent like without a conversation, which is a whole nother issue that you need to work on with your partner. But two, I will be okay with this if you finish it, like if you follow through. If you don't finish it, if you don't follow through, I'm going to lose it. He did not finish it. He did not follow through. to this day, I will bring up that stupid book and be like, remember that book you were supposed to write? And there's a couple other examples of this other venture he tried to go on an app that you can rent anything. There's this rental property we tried to take on, and the tenant absolutely destroyed it. And then it made our life miserable for like a year. There's all these mistakes. So it got to the point that when he would come to me with an idea, I would say, okay, here is the reason that I would like to say no to this idea. I have this evidence, and this evidence, and I think you need to focus on the current wrap shop. These are the problems of our current wrap shop. Let's get that up and going. And if you get it done by this date, then let's consider that. When I started approaching things that way, it like completely removed the tension. Like it was just like, okay, fair. That makes sense. Whereas I kind of used to like, oh, Andrew's got this, he can do it. And then I started realizing, okay, maybe right now my role as the support person is to just point out little bits of evidence of like it's not that you are not successful, it's that you are biting off more than you can chew. And I keep watching you make that mistake again and again. So like, let's discuss it. So you need to have a partner that you can communicate and have hard conversations with and say like, I just need you to consider this side. At no point was I like, cursing him out, yelling at him. Absolutely not. This is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not helpful. That's not a productive conversation. You're just making the other person feel small. And I also think you're making the other person afraid of you if you talk to them that way. So, like I said, you can support them without agreeing with every decision. And that's for the support person. That's for the entrepreneur in the relationship, whoever it may be. Support shows up in all sorts of different ways. So now that we've kind of talked about what the wrong things that a wrong partner might do for you or someone who you really need to work with, let's talk about the right things that a partner can do for you. So the first one is kind of the opposite of what we just said. They're going to believe in you even before that proof exists. So I knew just based off of Andrew's core qualities and traits, there's no doubt in my mind that he was going to be a successful person. I knew it at the age of 8th grade. I knew it the age of 8th grade, the year of 8th grade. I knew it all the way in 8th grade. I knew it in high school. And you could just tell by the way he achieves any task that he does. I just knew it doesn't matter what this man does. I know he's going to be successful because to his core, that is just how he is. He's just a hard worker, a genuine person. And those are the qualities that I personally loved. So I believed in him without any proof, if that makes sense. Because at the time he worked at McDonald's. And how can you really prove that you're going to be a crazy successful entrepreneur when you work at McDonald's? I think he did the absolute best that he could with that in high school. But you always want a partner that believes in you. So that's a really good sign. Your partner will stay steady when things are uncertain. That is a huge one. So there was a time in our relationship where we literally moved out of a house into an RV. We lived in this RV together because it's this whole thing. We lived in this RV together and it wasn't even connected to water and it didn't even have heat. So then we moved into the shop. And like I said, it's this whole long story. But the thing is like, it was kind of fun. Like it was just me and him and our dogs. I would not want to go back to it, but when I look at like the building blocks of our relationship, that is a key moment. And I think that experience made both of us realize like this other person has my back. Like when I have absolutely nothing going for me, this person is still here. And we talk about that pretty often of like, it would be so silly to throw our relationship away at this point, especially for, some shiny object of a person, really, because we just have such a strong history and a strong backstory. And that all came from just staying steady when things were uncertain. I was like, I know it's hard right now. We're going to make it through it. There were times he had to say that to me. There were times I had to say it to him. But that is the voice that you need on the outside so that you can fix the voice on the inside of your head. Encouraging growth even when it is uncomfortable. That's a huge one. So A great example, honestly, is this podcast. So our wrap shop went from being absolute like torture to own and operate to like, oh my gosh, things are going really well. I feel like I have some free time now. And then immediately Andrew's like, let's launch a podcast and, blah, blah, blah. And at first, I think my immediate response was like, can I have a minute to think about it? And I just thought to myself, like, oh man, we finally got some free time. And now he wants to take this on. But I guess his excitement and enthusiasm is what makes saying yes in those moments worth it. And he kept pitching it to me of, we can do this together, and we can do this together, and it's going to be great, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay, let's do it. So you definitely want that support person. And I'm not saying look for a template of me and Andrew and rinse and repeat. Everybody has their own quirks and their own, thing that they're looking for in a relationship. But if you have someone who just encourages your growth, that is huge. I can't tell you how many examples I have of just, friends, people I know that their partner doesn't encourage them, and it's almost painful to watch. And I'm sure they have underlying issues. They're nervous about the bills. Maybe they have kids together, whatever it may be. But there's nothing more uncomfortable than like when you go to dinner with another couple and they just like dog on each other the whole time. I tell Andrew all the time, like, I never want to be that couple. I want to be the person that when you walk away, I am like gassing you up, and like vice versa. And I also can't tell you how many random people tell me that Andrew does that when I'm not in the room, which is just like the nicest compliment you can get, that my partner talks good behind my back. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, he's really gassing me up. I actually don't think I'm that awesome. So that's something really cool to look for. So have conversations about that. And again, it didn't always be that way. There were times that I would kind of like trash talk, oh, my boyfriend did this to my girlfriends or whatever. And then I just realized, what is this doing? This is just making my friends dislike him, know too much about my business. I'm only going through the negative. I'm not going through the highlight reel at all. So just some things to keep in mind. Handles life so that you can handle the mission. This one's a weird one. It doesn't necessarily mean, the stereotypical, the woman stays at home and cooks and cleans and the guy goes to work. That's not what I mean at all. But I mean, there are definitely seasons of life where me and Andrew pass back and forth, like, I need you to meal prep for me this week, or I need you on dinner. And Andrew's not much of someone who cooks. So usually it's just a communication of like, hey, this week coming up is going to be so busy for me. We are going to probably need to eat out a lot or do some sort of meal prep service. And I think that's how we ended up doing one of those services that I'm totally blanking on the name of, the little subscription, like Blue Apron or something like that, Freshly something, where you sign up for the meal and it ships it to your house. Costs more money, but he was like, if this is going to set up our week just fine, I'll gladly do it. And then he was cooking the meals off of that. So that being said, sometimes you have to pass that hat back and forth of life is crazy. I need you to help with laundry, dishes, the normal people stuff, and I'm going to cover it. And then you can pass it back and forth. So I just want to elaborate on that because if you know me, I'm a pretty big feminist. So I'm not a huge fan of like the set gender roles. And then celebrates wins without competing. Again, this is one that I had to work on. I'm a very, very, very competitive person. And I noticed that everyone was always gassing Andrew up all the time. Like it didn't matter what I did. Everything was like, good job, Andrew. And here's an award, Andrew. And I went to I'm serious. I went to so many like award things where like he's getting this award. And as they're listing off like the accomplishments, I'm like, okay, that was actually me who did that, me who did that, me who did that in regards to like setting up all these back end things of the business. And I don't really know how I fix this in my brain, but I just realized how petty of me to be jealous and kind of competitive with him and want to be better than him. Because the thing is, we are a team. So his wins are my wins are his wins. So total mindset shift on that. And now I'm more than excited whenever he wins any things or wins an award or gets mentioned by someone or he tells me good news or something great that happened to him. Because it's a win for the team. So Try to focus on that mindset, and that will help a lot. And then when it comes to kind of like the wrap shop owner specific things that are helpful, there's going to be long install weeks if the person that you're with, or if you are that person, if you are still installing, there's always those busy weeks where you're not going to get to come home as often. There's going to be cash flow stress, just busy season versus, slow season. Those have their own corresponding stress. You're either stressed because you're too busy or stressed because the phones aren't ringing at all. Arguably, I don't know which one's worse. And then leadership mistakes where maybe they hired someone, it didn't work out, it's affecting them at home, and then now they have to absorb that role because that person quit or whatever. That's a huge one. And then also, you're going to have your pivots that are going on throughout your business that your partner is going to need to be able to support you through, or at least just be able to listen to. That is always something that I've noticed too when I've seen other relationships when it comes to like an entrepreneur and a non-entrepreneur is it feels like the entrepreneur doesn't feel like they can talk about their day-to-day or their problems with a non-entrepreneur person. So that being said, if that is your setup that you have going on, I hope that you're looking for someone who is interested in what you're doing and trying to learn from it instead of just like, oh, I don't understand that, so I'm not going to try and listen to it. So the point of your partner at home, it's not to remove the pressure and fix your problems. It's just simply to make it survivable. And that brings me to another one of my huge points, which is if you haven't gotten it from the rest of this conversation, just communication in general. If you can't talk to your partner, you're screwed. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you have to be able to talk. A huge issue me and Andrew had was, especially that we worked together. I had a hard time telling if he would present a problem and I would go straight into solving it of like, here's what I would do and do this and do that. And have you done this and blah, blah, blah. And then I would notice he was like mad. So I'm like, what are you possibly mad about? Like, I listened to you. I'm trying to help you. And it's like he didn't have this sentence until we figured it out together. And he now just says, I don't want you to solve it. I just want you to tell me that sucks. And he says it all the time to me. And I'll do the same to him. Sometimes I'll even start off like, look, I'm going to dump a lot of stuff. I just need to let it out. I don't need you to fix it. And then I just want to go about our day after. But like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And then at the end, he'll be like, yeah, that sucks. So sometimes you just need to like go into a conversation and say, this is what I need out of this conversation. If you can do that for me. And the other person should respect that. If they don't respect that, that's a pretty big red flag for sure. So you got to have everybody communicating and you have to be rowing in the same direction. We talk about this so much when it comes to getting your team on board with like your company's goals. But what about your own life goals? If your life goals are not aligning with your partner's life goals and you're rowing in opposite directions, I don't know. Good luck. I really don't know how you do that. Like, just being in sync of like, okay, we're working really hard on this because our goal is to get this done. And then once that's done, that means that we can achieve XYZ it's fun. I know that sounds kind of nerdy, but it is really fun. It's really fun to achieve your goals together and then make little rewards for yourself. And I can tell you one big thing was, if you remember a little bit earlier on in this episode, I talked about how we lived in an RV and it wasn't connected. Well, that RV sat on the side of our wrap shop for a while. And I would like to point out, this isn't like a nice, really nice, like, whoa, they lived in like a nice camper. This is like, I think it's a 1997 Nomad. No slide outs, no crazy features, totally vintage. We got it like cash only on Facebook Marketplace. Not super nice, but me and him both worked really hard to try to make it homey as best as we could. We aren't like crazy contractors enough to like totally gut it and make it bougie like you see on YouTube. But, we painted it and did a little bit of reupholstering and stuff like that. And then it just kind of kept sitting there. So we're like, maybe we're going to sell it. Well, anyway, our big goal was like, oh, we're going to park this somewhere and make it like a little vacation home. That dream took, I think, 5 years to come to life. But I will let you know that little camper is parked at the lake. And there is something just so fulfilling about showing up to this little camper and knowing the amount of work that it took to get there and knowing that it took both of us rowing in the same direction to get that set up. So set a goal with your partner and working hard to achieve it. It's a crazy good feeling. And that could be anything. Maybe you want to take a trip together, so you're saving up money for that. Or maybe you want to start a family together. Maybe you want a dog together. Maybe you want to move out of an apartment into your first house. There's all these little goals that you can do. And it's just really fun. So whenever things go off track, you just remind them, like, this is why we're doing it, and it's going to be great, and it's all going to pay off. And that's a really good and positive voice in your head at the end of the day. So here are some hard questions that you should ask yourself. Does this person believe in who I am becoming, or do they constantly remind me of who I used to be? This question I wanted to specifically touch on because I've noticed this a lot as well. So me and Andrew started dating in high school, and now we just hit our 30s. It is very unfair of me to try to like compare where we are now to the relationship that we had when we were 16. And I used to do it all the time. So again, all of these things that I'm saying are like all things that I've had to work on. So I come to you from like a very humble spot on that. But if your partner is constantly like, this isn't who you used to be, like you didn't used to work this much, you used to be fun and blah, 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 just be cautious of that, because you want someone who's going to support your growth and grow with you versus holding you back and saying, oh, you're not fun anymore because you're working too much or whatever it may be. So that's a big conversation that should be a red flag that you need to have a tough conversation. So let's go with that. Do they support growth or tolerate it? And we kind of have touched on that one a lot. Do they bring peace or friction into very hard seasons of your life? That's huge because, like I said, if hard season and then they're against you, whew, it's tough. Do they respect your work even if they don't fully understand it? And do they shrink? Do you personally shrink or expand around them? So I hope you can ask yourself those questions and figure that out. And the big thing here is you're not always going to stay perfect. There's so much that goes into a relationship. And I actually was listening to a different podcast earlier, and the guest brought up such an interesting point where they said, how often do you hear that relationships take hard work? And how often do they even tell you what that work is? Like, you have no idea what the actual work is. And in my opinion, the work of a relationship it's kind of in cycles. So things might be really great. You're on the same page, you're vibing, and then maybe something changes because life happens. Who knows what it may be. And then you're kind of misaligned. You're kind of off. Like, you're off course, you're rowing in separate directions. So it requires both of you to consciously agree, like, yeah, we're off, and realign. And then you're going to be back in that cycle again, and then you're going to need to realign. So it's just this constant alignment, realignment, communication that happens 24/7. And it's a lot of work. I've also found little things like just remembering to say please and thank you and your basic manners. Something I have in my head all the time is, would I talk to a random person the way that I'm talking to him? And if the answer is no, then something's wrong. Because why would I talk down to the arguably most important person in my life? Why would I talk to a stranger better than I talk to my partner? So keep in mind that even if you've been together 10, 20, 30 years, it still matters the way that you talk to each other, the way that you're present for each other. You know, are you staring at your phone when you're talking to them, giving undivided attention? And are they doing that for you? So always keep that in mind. And then some practical steps that will also help you. You know, we've hit hard on communication. So make sure that you are sharing your goals clearly. A very nerdy thing that we like to do every year is we rent a little room for free at the library, and we go over all of our personal goals for the year. And that's a really nice way to know where we're both kind of wanting. And it gives us a minute right then and there to like hash it out. So there's been a time we've had that meeting and I'm like, I want to go on vacation to here. And Andrew right off the rip is like, no chance. Like, that maybe next year, but not this year. And so now I'm not resenting him all year long because I knew it was never in the cards to begin with. And of course it has to come with like reasonings and whatnot, but share your goals clearly. It should be each other's goals and then the goals together as a couple. Define your seasons of intensity. So maybe your partner doesn't know that things are crazy at work, and just communicating that will definitely help. Which goes into the next one. Tell them what helps versus what hurts. So that example I gave earlier of when I just needed Andrew, or he just needed me to say, you know what, that sucks. Just say that. Just say, hey, when I'm like this, it would be really helpful if you did this. So one thing right now is obviously, if you didn't know from the previous podcast, you guys are probably like, man, I wish she'd quit saying it. I'm pretty pregnant right now. So actually waiting any day now to have this baby. And I had to just directly tell Andrew, like, when I get like this, like, is there any way that you could just take care of dinner? Or is there any way that you can take the dogs out? Or this would be really helpful. Like, can you help me keep my water bottle full because I'm drinking so much water? And I just bluntly tell him, because most of the time it's not that they don't want to be helpful. I think it's just that, like, it doesn't cross their mind. And so I just bluntly say what I want. And almost every time he's like, oh, yeah, sure, no big deal. That being said, I don't use it on absolutely everything, and it's a little bit of extreme circumstances right now. But just let people know and let your partner know, this helps me and this hurts me. And then appreciate those unseen sacrifices. And that goes both ways. So that it goes back to what I was talking about earlier of even just saying please and thank you. So anytime Andrew does something nice, maybe he brings me lunch in the middle of the day, or he stops by and he takes the dogs out, because I always have my dogs in my office with me, stuff like that. I always make sure to text him. And if I forget in the moment, I'll even text him an hour later and say, hey, thanks for doing that. I forgot to tell you. So you always have these little acts that can happen throughout the day. So to wrap it up here, I'm going to leave you with a Valentine's Day challenge. So my challenge for you is to have an honest conversation this week with your existing partner. And I want you to talk about, where are you going? Where are they going? And we're going to say professionally on that, and also personally. Tell them what support looks like to you, and ask what it looks like for them. And then how they help you succeed. Go ahead and tell them that. That would be a really great moment of gratitude. And then where you want to grow together in the future. So I hope you can have a deep conversation with your partner this week. Everyone needs those. And a fun fact, if you feel like that is awkward, it is proven that if you go for a walk or a car ride, it is easier because you aren't making direct staring eye contact. So maybe you need to do a long drive or a walk together, and you'll have a very productive conversation. And then the other thing that I challenge you, and you might think this is a little counterproductive to what this whole episode is about, I want you to do something good for just you. I think so often in relationships, we get so tied up in the other person. And again, I'm guilty of this, that we forget that we are an individual ourselves. So maybe it's going to the gym, going for a walk, doing some meal prep, and you can meal prep for both of you. It doesn't have to just be for you, but meal prep, call an old friend, grab coffee with a friend, read, journal. You just need to remember that there is a you that exists that needs nurturing, because how are you supposed to help take care of someone else and support someone else if you aren't taking care of yourself? So don't wait for your partner to eat healthy for you to eat healthy. Best case scenario, you start eating healthy and then they're like, oh, I need to catch up with them, and they join in. But remember that you need to do things for just you so that you can show up for them as well. And if you are single, my advice for you on this whole topic here is go on Tinder or Hinge, whatever dating app that you want to go on. And I would treat it like sales. And I would just book date after date after date. And you need to make a list of your non-negotiables for your future partner and just knock people off the list. I always joke, if I have a friend who, let's say she's in her 30s and she really wants kids and she's single, I would tell her to put that in her bio of, I want kids. If that's a problem, I wouldn't go on a date with me. Because it's why not qualify the buyer? Let's get the wrong people out and crank through those dates. And if you go on a bad date, who cares? Go on another one. There's, 8 million people on the planet? Is that number totally off? I'm not the best with numbers, if you know. So there's someone out there for everyone, and you're not looking for the perfect person. You're just looking for someone who communicates with you, supports you, and is willing to grow with you. So they might not be where you want them to be at, but as long as you guys can grow together, then you found the right person, and that works out. So that is what I leave you with today on your relationships. It's just that your life partner is probably your most important investment. So I really hope that you choose wisely and that you nurture it wisely as well, because you need to have stability in your business, but you have to have stability at home as well, because the time is split up there too. So it's just going to be so hard to grow your wrap shop if you're going home to complete chaos. And I don't wish that on anyone. So that is my episode for this week of Valentine's Day. And of course, I have to do a little mushy shout out. Happy Valentine's Day to Andrew. I definitely dedicate this episode to him. Sorry, I have been a pain in the butt for how long have we been together? The past 10 plus years. But I can definitely say if our business were to go under tomorrow and we lost absolutely everything, I know we would be just fine, which is a sense of security that I hope every person can find. So again, I'm not telling you go out and find a clone and a copy of us and duplicate. Find what works for you, but you just need that support person, and you need that person who pretty much can tell you everything's going to be okay and that you're a rock star. And I hope you go out and find that. So thank you so much for joining into today's episode. We post an episode every Tuesday. So if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do that. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We have a YouTube channel too. We have it on there. So wherever you listen to your podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review. And don't forget, if you have any questions that you would like me and or Andrew to answer, you can head over to wrapops.com and ask any question that you want. And we may just make an episode out of it. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you took some of this to heart, pun intended, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
The Wrap Institute, the largest online wrap training platform, now with a special offer. Use our code WRAPOPS15 for 15% off your order.